also okay.
Wait, say that again, sorry.
Because the child doesn't have the father's last name, the father decides he doesn't want to pay child support. Is that okay?
He doesn't want to give the baby.
A man and a woman have a child together. They're not married. She doesn't want to give the child the father's last name because they're not married. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine. No, if I'm not married to you, I'm just fucking you. Go ahead. It doesn't have to have my last name.
So I have a follow-up question for that. I always have follow-up questions.
Go ahead.
If the woman doesn't want to give the child the father's last name, is it okay for the father then to turn around and say, I don't want to pay child support?
Of course.
Okay. Why?
Because if that's not, if the girl is not going to give my last name, why should I pay child support?
All right. So my question is, if a man and a woman have a child together and they're not married, and the woman refuses to give the child the father's last name because they're not married, is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. So the follow-up question is, if the father decides that because his child doesn't have his last name and he doesn't want to pay child support, is that also okay?
Wait, say that again, sorry.
Because the child doesn't have the father's last name, the father decides he doesn't want to pay child support. Is that okay?
You know, at the end of the day, it's still his child, so he kind of does have to support in some type of way.
I got you.
Just because the child doesn't have his last name, that doesn't mean he can't pay for anything. So.
Oh no, it's kind of, for me, if I'm a father, right?
Yeah.
I want my daughter to have my last name. I got a good woman. She gave my daughter my last name.
But is it that deep though?
To me, it is, because everyone wants to talk about how fathers aren't in the house or children need fathers. But then a child looks at his father or her father like that's the hero. But now it's like you're growing up, the child doesn't have the father's last name. She's going to be like, well, what was wrong with dad? Why I couldn't get his last name? And then the next question is, why are we sleeping with people if we're not married?
That is very true. That is very true. We should all be married. We have kids.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you. No problem.
A man and a woman is in a relationship. They have a child together. The lady does not want to give the child the father's last name because they're not married. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's 100%.
That's 100%.
Yeah, they're not married.
They're not married. Right? So now the follow-up question would be, if the father doesn't want to give child support because the child doesn't have his last name, is that also okay? It's not okay? Why? Right?
Because that's his child. Well, like, they're not together. That's why she want to give him like that last name.
Right. So if that's his child, if that's his child, should the child have his last name?
I mean, it should, but his mom doesn't want to.
What do you think?
I mean, like, you know, I think that it's like, no matter what you're talking about, if it's her decision, then that's her decision. People have opinions. My opinion, honestly, like, my father, like, his last name was carried on. So if I was in that situation, I would take the last name so because that, you know, my dad would want me to.
Right.
No, I wouldn't. But at the same time, like, the woman's literally cleaning after the child, taking care of it as well. So that's my opinion. Like, if it's different, and giving birth to a child is not hard. I mean, that's not easy. That's not easy.
I understand. So now, is it something they should have talked about before they had sex?
Yeah.